The US intelligence chief, Tulsi Gabbard, has admitted that Iran was not rebuilding nuclear enrichment capacities destroyed in Israeli-US strikes last year. The admission made in a Senate hearing directly contradicts the Trump administration's claim that Iran posed an imminent threat to the US. Gabbard was testifying to the Senate Intelligence Committee. Interestingly, she did not make the admission directly. Gabbard omitted the reference to Iran from her oral remarks. The admission was rather buried inside a written testimony where she revealed that Tehran had made no efforts to rebuild its uranium enrichment capability after the US strikes in June last year. Democratic Senator Mark Warner cornered Gabbard on the topic.
I guess what I'm concerned about, one thing is, even in your printed testimony today on page 6, and your last paragraph on page 6, as a result of Operation Midnight Hammer, Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated. There's been no efforts to try to rebuild their enrichment capability. You omitted that paragraph from your oral opening. Was that because the president said there was an imminent threat 2 weeks?
No, sir. I recognize that the time was running long, and I skipped through some of the portions.
So you chose to take
my oral delivered remarks.
You chose to omit the parts that contradict the president.
Gabbard also conceded that despite the heavy bombing by Israel and the US, the regime in Iran was intact. Interestingly, Trump has touted regime change as one of the key objectives of the US strikes in Iran.
The IC assesses the regime in Iran appears to be intact but largely degraded due to attacks on its leadership and military capabilities. Its conventional military power projection capabilities have largely been destroyed, leaving limited options. Iran's strategic position has been significantly degraded.
Further, Gabbard deflected questions by Democratic senators when asked about whether she had advised President Trump before the attack on Iran.
Did you brief the president, if he starts a war of choice, that the likely result would be that Iran would strike adjacent Gulf nations and close the Strait of Hormuz? Did you brief him on those two facts that I think have been consistently the assumptions of the intelligence community?
I have not and won't divulge internal conversations. I will say that those of us within the intelligence community continue to provide the president with all of the best objective intelligence available to inform his decisions.
Since the beginning of war, US President Donald Trump has repeatedly said that he ordered the attack on Iran because of an imminent threat. But Gabbard's admission dealt a severe blow to the Trump administration, which has largely endorsed Israel's claims that Tehran was dangerously close to a nuclear weapon. It also comes just a day after top US counter-terror chief Joe Kent resigned from his position, saying that Iran posed no imminent threat. Further, reports suggest that UK's National Security Advisor Jonathan Powell had also concluded that a deal with Iran was within reach. Powell was also part of the Oman-mediated talks. A report in The Guardian says that Powell believed the offer made by Iran on its nuclear program was significant enough to prevent a rush to war. America's objectives in the war have changed frequently, with Washington struggling to explain the urgency behind the attack. As more voices admit that a breakthrough was possible via diplomacy and that Iran posed no imminent threat to the US, Washington's decision to join the Israeli war campaign is coming under heavy scrutiny, both at home and abroad. And for more on this, our correspondent Susan Terani has sent us this report. Listen in.
President Trump's top intelligence officials, including Tulsi Gabbard and CIA Director John Ratcliffe, faced tough questions from the Senate Intelligence Committee over the administration's case for the Iran war. Lawmakers pressed them on whether or not Iran posed an imminent threat before the war began and whether intelligence was being shaped to fit President Trump's policies. The hearing showed skepticism on Capitol Hill about the administration's war justification, notably among Democrats. And now scrutiny is expanding to its price tag. Reports indicate the Pentagon has asked the White House to approve a supplemental request of more than $200 billion to fund the conflict and replenish weapons used in the campaign. Susan Tahrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.